members of the AU Commission, members of the AU Development Agency NEPAD, government representatives with us in the room, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to PIDA Week 2019, and thank you so much for joining us. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sikim Gabadeli. I'm a financial journalist from South Africa, and I'll be facilitating some of the panel discussions and a lot of the conversations we're going to be having over the next couple of days as we look at progress that we've made in positioning Africa to deliver on Agenda 2063 and, of course, economic integration, and with a particular focus on what we're doing about infrastructure through multi-sectoral approaches. This morning, this particular session is a media breakfast for the Continental Business Network. You will remember that in June 2015, the African Union Development Agency launched the first Continental Business Network meeting as part of the World Economic Forum on Africa in Cape Town, South Africa, in response to recommendations that had been originated from the 2014 Dakar Financing Summit. So CBN has been helping to provide some thought leadership and advice to policymakers and heads of state on a variety of strategic issues like policy, investment ratings, project structuring, etc. So this particular briefing is about getting a sense of where we are, and I suspect it's going to also set some of the agenda about the things we're going to be talking about over the next few days. So let me give you a sense of what's going to happen this morning. We're going to start with some opening remarks. We will allow the media a few minutes to ask a few questions, and I apologize for the late start. So those questions are going to be have to be slightly brief, but over the next few days you will have a chance to ask more as we unpack a lot of the work that has taken place. And then after that, we will have a panel discussion talking about some of the technical aspects and getting a sense of what the public and the private sector are doing and have done and what we need to focus on over the next few years. So I hope that we're going to have a fruitful breakfast this morning, and then of course after that we will have the opening plenary session as well. But I'll keep reminding you of where we are in the program this morning. So without further ado, I'm going to ask that my next speakers come through to give us their opening remarks, and we're going to start. If you could please give a warm welcome to His Excellency Dr. Ibrahim Asane Mayaki, who is the CEO of AUDA NEPAD, to make some opening remarks. Please give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you very much, Master Ceremony. Good morning, everyone. Your Excellency Ambassador Khaled Demara, Assistant Foreign Minister of the Foreign Ministry of Arab Republic of Egypt, Your Excellency Amani Abu Zaid, African Union Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, Mrs. Kalamontesi, representing the European Union, Mrs. Barbara Schaefer, representing Germany, my dear colleagues of ECA, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and the African Development Bank, dear friends, because CBN is a platform fundamentally of friends. My remarks will be brief. I will focus on 6 quick points. The first one is, why was CBN created? For a very simple reason. Given the financing gap in order to implement PIDA projects, as you know, 80% of projects in infrastructure in Africa are funded publicly, by public funds. But amidst all this effort of funding by governments, we still have a huge gap in order to implement PIDA, and especially in what regards regional projects. And the know-how that we have built in financing national projects had to be transformed in another type of know-how in order to finance regional projects. These are two different ball games. So if you look at the gap of financing regarding regional projects, the only way to go was to call upon the private sector to be a partner in that process. And this is why CBN was created. Two reasons. First one, the issue of financing, and the second one, the necessity to have a platform which could look at the challenges and the obstacles to financing infrastructure in the continent. And by picking the discussions that were held during the CBN processes, we come to conclusions that help us liaise with African Union heads of states in order to see how we unlock these issues, which are very frequently soft issues of regulatory frameworks, doing business environments, etc. So CBN is at the same time an instrument that can allow us to channel funding and a platform which can allow us a cultural interaction between the public and the private. Now, one of the key outcomes of the CBN processes during the last years was the issue of how we manage the perception of risk. We all know that the perception of risk in the continent is high, and one of the first tasks that we focused on was the issue of de-risking. And on the basis of the recommendations of CBN, we went into a very deep study regarding de-risking processes. And evidently, when you talk about de-risking, you cannot do it as a theoretical analysis. You need to interact with practical actors on the ground. And we gathered institutional investors, fundamentally pension funds and sovereign wealth funds, and we asked them, why didn't they invest in the continent? Because they have assets under management which are close to $1 trillion, but they invest less than 1% in the continent. And we decided with them, on the basis of a conclusion of a de-risking study, under the leadership of the African Union Commission, we decided to implement the recommendations of a de-risking study. And we came with an instrument which is the Africa Infrastructure Guarantee Mechanism, which is now the infrastructure window of the core guarantee platform of the African Development Bank. So, first point, cultural interaction between public and private. Second point, de-risking, but de-risking looked at in practical measures. Third point, an instrument which is the Africa Infrastructure Guarantee Mechanism under the co-guarantee platform. So with these mechanisms, what we need to do now is fuel into that whole system bankable projects. And that's why PIDA is all about. How do we bring bankable projects for funding with the necessary guarantee mechanisms? So we are extremely pleased to be here in Egypt, and I would like to really sincerely thank the government of Egypt for hosting us, and thank my sister Amani for the leadership that she is providing for PIDA to move ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mayaki, for giving us some food for thought about where things are at the moment, but also what you are hoping to do. And I'm hoping that in our technical discussion we'll deal particularly with issues around bankable projects and where we are, how we're going to get there as well. That's a conversation we're going to have in a few minutes. But right now, I'd like to welcome to the stage and give a warm welcome to Her Excellency Amani Abu Zaid, who is the Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, who's going to deliver her opening remarks.
Good morning, everyone. This is the time where you're going probably to put your headsets, because I'm going to talk in Arabic. Oh, and while you're there, maybe it's time for you to learn Arabic. Can someone help us? Which channel is English? Which channel is French, please? Which channel is English? Is it one or two? One in English for English, one for English, and those who speak in French? Arabic, 1, 2 English, 3 French. No? Right? 2 for English, 3 for French. Okay? Okay, let me start. أخي العزيز معالي الأخ حسن مياكي رئيس الهيئة الإفريقية للتنمية أو دانيباد، الأخ العزيز سعادة مساعد وزير الخارجية خالد عمارة، الأخت العزيزة كارلا مونتيزي من الاتحاد الأوروبي، باربرا من الحكومة الألمانية، الإخوة والأخوات من البنك الإفريقي للتنمية وبنك التجارة والاستيراد والتصدير الإفريقي أفريكسن بنك، الإخوة والأخوات من المنظمة الإفريقية، منظمة الأمم المتحدة أو لجنة الأمم المتحدة لإفريقيا يونيكا، الحضور الكريم من كافة الشركاء والفاعلين في التنمية في إفريقيا بشكل عام، وطبعا الأخوات والإخوة من ممثلي الصحف والإذاعة والتلفزيون عبر القارة الإفريقية. سعادتي كبيرة بمرتين أو بمضاعفة هذا الصباح. أولا إني بلتقيكم كما نلتقي كل عام حول برنامج البنية التحتية الإفريقية، فهي سعادة كبيرة لأنه بنبحث سويا التقدم المحرز في تنفيذ برامج البنية التحتية عبر القارة الإفريقية. نبحث أيضا هي التحديات التي تواجهنا في تنفيذ هذه المشروعات، ونبحث الخطط المستقبلية والرؤى المستقبلية في تنفيذ برامج البنية التحتية عبر القارة الإفريقية. سعادتي الأخرى طبعا والعظيمة هو أني ألتقيكم في مصر بلدي ووطني، فلذا بسعد زي ما قلت سعادتي مضاعفة بالترحيب بكم هذا الصباح. للأخوات أو الإخوة اللي أول مرة ينضموا إلينا في هذا الملتقى السنوي، بس أنا ربما هبدأ من بعض البدايات. كما تعلموا القارة الإفريقية هي اتخذت لنفسها استراتيجية للتنمية وللنهوض بها، ونحن عازمون بشكل قوي على تنفيذ هذه الاستراتيجية التي تسمى أجندة 2063. أجندة 2063 لها عدة موضوعات أساسية حددها لنا رؤساء الدول والحكومات للتنفيذ، وعدة قطاعات وبعض المشروعات التي تسمى المشروعات الكبرى أو الفلاج شيب بروجيكتس التي ينبغي لنا أن احنا ننفذها، لأن من شأنها أنها تحدث تحولا كبيرا في القارة الإفريقية إلى الأمام. عشان أو بغرض تنفيذ هذه المشروعات يلزمنا أو في كل القطاعات الحقيقة يلزمها بنية تحتية، والبنية التحتية هي الركيزة الأساسية التي بدونها لا يمكن أن نتخيل أن يعمل أي قطاع. فلا يمكن أن نكون موجودون هذا الصباح لو ما فيش في مثلا كهرباء او ما فيش ميه او ما فيش طريق نسير عليه وهكذا، فهي العامل المساعد والمسرع للتنميه وللاسهام في كافه القطاعات. المشروعات تأتينا من خلال أو يعني ترفع لقيادات القارة من رؤساء الدول والحكومات من خلال ما يسمى التمثيل لكل منطقة في إفريقيا أو لكل إقليم، وهي المنظمات الإقليمية الاقتصادية RECs Regional Economic Communities، اللي تضم كل منها عدد من الدول، تبحث هذه التمثيل هذا الدول في كل اقليم المشروعات ذات الاولويه وذات الاهميه القصوى التي يجب ان يعتمدها قاده القاره. بترفع من خلال بعمل تشاركي. الحقيقه انا سعيده انه في الفتره السابقه لهذا الاجتماع من 14 ل 16 نوفمبر عقدنا جلسه في اديس ابابا، وقبلها بشهر ونص كان في كيجالي، لنبحث المرحلة الثانية من المشروعات الأولوية للقارة الإفريقية في ال10 سنين القادمة. بحثنا فيها البرنامج الأولي اللي هو ال10 سنين الماضية، ماذا تم فيه والتقدم المحرز وإيه هي التحديات وإيه هي المشاكل أو المعوقات اللي قابلتنا وما هي النتائج، ونبحث في هذا يعني اللقاء ما خلصنا إليه في الاجتماعات اللي هي سابقة في الشهر ونص اللي فاتوا، إيه هي المشروعات التي ينبغي لنا التركيز عليها في ال10 سنين القادمة. ما يميز المشروعات الجديدة في ال10 سنوات القادمة كذا عامل. أولا، تعلمنا من أخطائنا أو تعلمنا من التحديات التي واجهتنا، وكما ذكر أخي حسن مياتي أحد أهم هذه التحديات أنه إحنا نفذنا فقط تلت هذه المشروعات، وأن قابلتنا صعوبة كبيرة جدا في تمويل هذه المشروعات الضخمة والعملاقة التي تعبر القارة أو تعبر الأقاليم لعدة أسباب، بعضها فني وبعضها تمويلي وهكذا. فلا بد لنا أن نتعلم الدرس ونعرف إزاي كيف نكون أكثر جذبا للاستثمارات وللتمويل، وماذا ينبغي علينا فعله من أجل أيضا الحرص على العوامل الفنية وجدوى هذه المشروعات. العامل الثاني هو احنا حريصين على بنية تحتية في القارة ذات جودة عالية أو ما يسمى quality infrastructure، ووضعنا لها الشهر ونص الماضي التشارك زي ما قلت هو الأسلوب التشاركي عدة معايير بحتى محددات رقمية، إنه ينبغي لها الجدوى الاقتصادية كذا، المردود يكون بنسبة كذا، التقنيات الذكية التي تستخدم في المشروعات كذا، الأخذ في الاعتبار المرأة كذا، الأخذ في الاعتبار أيضا التغيرات المناخية وأثرها على هذه البنية التحتية كذا وكذا، بحيث أنه المشروعات التي تقدم إلينا والتي ترفع لقيادات القارة في القمة القادمة تكون على أعلى مستوى فني وتقني. هذا من ناحية. ومن ناحية أخرى كما تفضل أخي حسن مياتي وذكر، بحثنا أيضا في المعوقات المالية أو كيفية سد الفجوة المالية، ووجدنا أن هذه الفجوة المالية لا يمكن للحكومات وحدها أن تتحملها، ولا بد أن يشترك الجميع، ليس فقط المؤسسات الدولية المالية وليس فقط الشركاء من الدول، ولكن أيضا القطاع الخاص، ولكن أيضا الصناديق الدولية للسيادية أو المعاشات أو غيرها. ولكن إذا احنا بنستقطب هذا التمويل لابد لنا أيضا أن نعيد صياغة أو طريقة تقديم هذه المشروعات حتى تكون جاذبة لهذه الاستثمارات، وهو ما نحرص عليه اليوم، إن كيفية أن تكون صياغة هذه المشروعات بشكل جاذب للاستثمارات الخاصة، ما هي السياسات وأطر التنظيمية التي ينبغي علينا في دولنا اتخاذها لجذب أو أن يكون الشركاء لنا من قطاعات خاصة أو من صناديق دولية وغيرها. أنا مش عايزة أدخل في تفاصيل فنية كتير، ولكن أو يكفي هذا من التفاصيل الفنية، ولكن أؤكد على كذا نقطة. أي إجراء أو أي مشروع بحثناه أو نتحدث فيه تم بمنتهى الشفافية وكلها بأسلوب تشاركي، لأننا حريصون على إشراك ومشاركة الجميع، سواء المؤسسات الإفريقية كافة أو غير الإفريقية. دي أول نقطة. النقطة الثانية، نتعلم، يعني نسير قدما ونتعلم ونحن نسير أيضا، وحريصين لذا حرصنا على تقييم المرحلة الأولى بمنتهى الوضوح والصراحة والشفافية، وأيضا بحثنا الحلول التي ينبغي لنا أن احنا نضعها حتى نحسن من أدائنا الفترة القادمة. ثالثا، قللنا من عدد المشروعات أو اهتمامنا بمشروعات ذات أولوية قصوى، وحددناها ب10 مشروعات لكل إقليم. في مجالات ايه؟ مجالات النقل البري، البحري، السكة الحديد، الطيران، الملاحة، او اللي انا قلت البحري، الطاقة، المعلوماتية، الماء، السياحة. فهي مجالات عديدة، ولكن مش ممكن كل شيء يتعمل في نفس الوقت. حرصنا انه يكون 10 مشروعات لكل اقليم، 10 في 5 يعني 50 مشروع قاري. أنا بتكلم على مشروعات ضخمة جدا وليست المشروعات الوطنية هنا، بنتكلم على 50 مشروع قاري من شأنهم أن يغيروا شكل القارة ومستقبل القارة في أسرع وقت ممكن. وكما ذكرت احنا حرصنا أن يكون لها المقومات التي تكفل لها من ناحية جودة عالية وأحسن أداء، ومن ناحية أخرى أيضا الاستمرارية. آراءكم مهمة لنا، وهذا الأسبوع يتيح لنا أيضا المزيد من التشاور والمزيد من الحوار، بهدف أن شاء الله في فبراير القادم نرفع كل هذه المخرجات إلى قادة القارة الإفريقية. وأشكركم.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Amani, for reminding us of the consultative and the participatory approach that you're taking to this massive project that we're doing together as a continent. Thank you very much for that. But a lot of this work, of course, requires not just us doing this as public-private partnerships, but it's also a global process, and we working together with global partners. So our final speaker for this particular session this morning is Ms. Barbara Schaefer, who's a representative of Germany with the Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. Please welcome Ms. Schaefer.
Good morning. Unfortunately, I cannot speak in my mother tongue, so you have to bear with my English. Yes, Your Excellency, Ambassador Khaled Emara, Dear Excellency Commissioner Abu Zaid, Dear Excellency Dr. Ibrahim Mayaki, dear colleagues from the African Union Commission, AUDA, NEPAD, the ECA, African Development Bank, dear journalists, dear representatives of the private sector. Perhaps you might be asking why I am standing here. And first of all, I'd like to convey the greetings of the Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development, Dr. Gerd Müller, and I'm speaking on his behalf. But the more profound question is, why is Germany represented? And I can say Germany has been a supporter of PIDA from day one. And we have started with the first studies on the first PIDA projects. And we have supported various instruments. So the service delivery mechanism, the Continental Business Network, and we will be supporting further. And during these days, we will launch 2 new initiatives where we have been supporters. The PIDA Job Creation Toolkit and the Network for African Women in Infrastructure. But there's even a more profound question. Why is Germany here? And I would like to start with an experience I had as a very young girl. My father brought me to the border between East and West Germany. At that time it was closed. But it was not only closed, it was really a death zone. You couldn't pass. And that impressed me profoundly. I was actually, to say, well, I was very young, I was frightened. There were these fences, walls, soldiers, armed soldiers, these lights. All the trees were cut, so you could watch throughout the forest who might pass. And lucky me, I was on the western side. Today, I live in the former Eastern Germany, and my children don't have a clue. They ask me, oh, did this side belong to Moscow or that side? They don't know. You don't feel it anymore. You have a high-speed train going now from Munich to Berlin in a couple of hours. Just only like 40 years ago, it took 10, 12 hours. Now it's 3 to 4 hours, and you just don't feel it anymore. That's only Germany. If you look at Europe, but my European colleague is here, she might say a bit on that. We have a regional integration which works. You don't see borders. You have regional infrastructure. And most importantly, we have peace. I told a colleague yesterday, my father was born in 1937. I'm a child of a refugee. He had to flee from the very east to the very west. It doesn't count anymore. And that's the profound reason why Germany supports regional infrastructure. It's a tool. It's not a goal per se. It's a tool to bring countries together, to overcome borders, especially on the African continent, artificial borders, and to see that people really belong together, that they can meet, that they can agree, that they can trade. So that is the underlying reason why Germany is supporting regional infrastructure. And just to come a bit more to the point, not long ago, last week, in Germany, the German Chancellor hosted the Compact with Africa conference, a German G20 initiative. And it focuses a lot on private sector investment. And following what my speakers before me said, we really focus on private investment, and we also see that there's a need to go into de-risking. And Germany has launched 2 new de-risking instruments, one for foreign investors coming to the African continent, and one for African small and medium enterprises. So the instrument of de-risking is everywhere. That shows that it's more than relevant, and I'm very happy that ALDA-NEPAD has launched this tool and that we can support it and will support it further. And I'm very much looking forward to the technical discussions we are going to have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schaefer. In fact, we're going to go straight into that technical conversation to get a sense of what those who have been playing and dealing in this space are finding, if they're finding that de-risking is the biggest issue, what sort of projects are being prioritized, and what is it that we need to do to move that needle forward. So I'm going to welcome my panelists to the stage at this point, some of the key players in the Continental Business Network. Please welcome to the stage, and as I call your name, if I could ask you to please join me up in the front, Mr. Mamadi Soare, who's manager for Regional Integration Operations Division with the AFDB, Mr. Robert Lesinge, who is a Chief of Energy Infrastructure and Services Section with the ECA, Mr. Alvina Wolskut-Prince, who is Investment Partnerships and International with the Development Bank of Southern Africa, Ms. Anywhere you'd like, Ms. Melanie Lawrence, who is with the Guarantees and Specialized Finance team at Afresham Bank, as well as Mrs. Carla Montesi, who is Director of DevCo with the EU. So I'm going to give you these microphones. We're going to start with a conversation first, and then, of course, our members of the media and anybody else in the room, I'll give you an opportunity to ask some questions. The media with these microphones, would you like them in the middle to capture what's being said? I can do that for you. Would you like me to move them? I think. Right. We've heard, I think, from our opening remarks and the speakers who spoke, particularly Dr. Mayaki, reminding us of why CBN was set up. Why is it that we gather every year to look and talk about this particular problem that Africa has, where we need to plug some of the infrastructure gaps, and how do we do that? He spoke about 6 things that they have been working on and have been doing over time. Commissioner Amani reminded us of the need for strong infrastructure as a continent. And often when we think about infrastructure, we think about tall buildings, we think about massive projects, but she reminded us that actually things like electricity, things like water, things like the roads that we travel on a day-to-day basis, that's what we should be focusing on, and particularly when we're trying to improve the lives of Africans. And Ms. Schaefer reminding us about the importance of regional infrastructure. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Soare, and maybe just as the AFDB, if you could give us a sense of, right at this point, the type of appetite there is from private investors when it comes to the type of infrastructure that we've been talking about so far this morning.
Thank you so much, moderator.
Is it on?
Yeah, thank you so much, moderator. Since Commissioner Amani sets the scene by speaking Arabic, maybe I should follow that example and speak in French, even though I prepared those answers in English. C'est un sujet, c'est un sujet très important que vous abordez. Je dois dire que en ce qui concerne les investissements privés, nous ne faisons pas de distinction entre la source de l'argent, que l'argent vienne du secteur privé local ou du secteur privé international. Je veux mixer français-anglais. Que l'argent vienne du secteur privé français comme du secteur international ou du secteur privé local, $1 est $1. Cela dit, le docteur Mayaki l'a dit, les ressources des bailleurs de fonds, les ressources de nos gouvernements, les ressources publiques ne permettent plus de faire face aux besoins de financement des infrastructures qui sont de plus en plus énormes. Donc il faut penser out of the box, il faut qu'on ait des moyens innovants pour financer ces infrastructures-là. Il a dit CBN a été créé pour permettre au secteur privé de s'organiser afin de participer à cet effort de financement. Et la Banque africaine de développement a un certain nombre d'instruments dans ce sens, notamment des instruments de dérisque. Nous avons des partial risk guarantees, partial grant credit guarantees, qui sont des garanties qui permettent au secteur privé, ceux qui veulent investir, de dérisquer un petit peu leur investissement, leur participation à l'investissement des infrastructures. On le sait, l'épargne locale n'est pas assez forte parce que les investissements des infrastructures demandent de l'investissement à long terme. Ce n'est pas, et ce sont des montants importants. Donc il faut absolument qu'il y ait des garanties par rapport à ça, sinon le secteur privé aura donc du mal à venir. Nous avons un deuxième item que nous faisons et que d'autres bailleurs de fonds font également, c'est la préparation des projets. Des instruments qui ne sont pas... C'est vrai que la préparation des projets, ça coûte de l'argent. Je sais que beaucoup de gouvernements ne mettent pas ça en priorité alors qu'il faut préparer de bons projets. Je crois que le Dr Mayaki l'a dit, il faut qu'on ait en face de ce secteur privé qui arrive des projets bancables qui soient apportés donc sur la table. Troisièmement, nous travaillons sur des nouveaux instruments qu'on appelle SPV et qui puissent donc attirer donc le secteur privé, qui sont des instruments innovants. Quatrième et non le dernier, et last but not the least, nous avons entrepris à la banque de mettre en place un projet pilote. Projet pilote qui permet, dans lequel nous avons sélectionné un certain nombre de pays, dans lesquels on va mettre en place des mesures, donc enabling environment, des mesures donc qui vont permettre au secteur privé d'avoir plus de sécurité en matière de leur financement. On a choisi un certain nombre, enfin la moitié de ces pays sont des pays en transition, parce que c'est là où les besoins d'intégration sont les plus importants, et alors que malheureusement les financements ne viennent pas assez. Donc la banque, et c'est là où je pense aussi CBN peut intervenir. CBN doit être associé à cet exercice-là, donc de mise en place des mesures favorables à l'implication du secteur privé dans le financement des infrastructures régionales.
All right.
Merci.
I think a lot's been said about. I think a lot's been said. Financing. I think a lot's been said about bankability and a lot's been said about de-risking, and that's been a big focus. So I'm going to ask Mr. Lesinge if that remains one of the key constraints, de-risking, managing perceptions around the continent. What would you say are the main constraints to private sector participation?
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to talk about maybe three things. First is the regulatory environment, also the perceptions of risk. I think the previous speakers, Dr. Mayaki, they did mention the de-risking mechanisms that exist, but what exactly are the risks? So I want to go a little bit into those risks. That
as briefly as possible.
Yes, and maybe a little bit on capacity issues. On regulations, I think as we're talking about regional projects, one of the challenges is how do you have a standardized environment for investment in infrastructure across countries. You do have different countries with investment laws. You have countries that have set up PPP units, and if we're talking about regional projects, we want an environment where if you go to country A or country B, the investment environment is stable or similar. In terms of the risks, we spoke a lot about the de-risking mechanism, but what are the risks? What are we de-risking? I think the first thing is the political risk, and this is perception. I must say that the risks are usually exaggerated, but most people will tell you that there's a political risk. They want stability where you are putting your money. There's commercial risk. You want to invest in a project, you want to make sure that you have your return on investment. If you're going to have a toll road, we know that you need at least 10,000 vehicles a day for it to be profitable. So you have that element of commercial risk. You have issues related to currency stability. I remember once I was in Maputo doing the M4 from Mozambique to South Africa. The loan was in Rand, but the toll was being collected in the local currency. And if there's instability in the currency fluctuations, and so this is a big risk as well. So we also have issues related to design risk, construction risk. You have exit risk. So you're investing in a country, you want to go out when you feel like going out. So the capital market has to be developed as well. So you have regulatory risk. You don't have one countries that are changing their regulation in investing in energy or transport on a daily basis. So there are a whole lot of risk and all these instruments that we're talking about, the risking, are designed to solve one risk or another. And let me just finish with the issue of capacity. I think the capacity to prepare bankable projects is a real issue, and Dr. Mayaki mentioned it. I think that's why the service delivery mechanism was created, because countries had challenges even to access the project preparatory facilities. So this is a real issue. But also, if you want to have public-private partnership, for instance, you need to have governments that have the capacity to negotiate such a public-private partnership arrangement. And you simply don't have that kind of capacity in many African countries. So there are many challenges to private sector investment, but that's why institutions like ECA are there. ECA just created a whole division on financing where we have, where I work is financing infrastructure. So we're trying to address all these issues related to regulation, capacity, and so on.
Ms. Lawrence, Mr. Lesinga has pointed out what are the things that private funders are concerned about, what they think about before they'll invest in a particular project. But I wonder what we should do. How do we manage those perceptions, and how do you as a bank approach them when they do come, because they are rooted in a certain level of reality, but we also have seen so much improvement on the continent. When do we start to ring our own bell that says, look how far we've come, and invest in us?
Great. No, thank you very much. And I think I must totally agree with my fellow panelists on the type of risks that they've highlighted, which are very real and that we experience on a regular basis on the continent. Things like perception of risk, lack of access to financing, lack of finance to even get projects to the bankable, feasible stage, access to information. So we at Afrexim Bank have recognized these issues, and we've come across and found many ways in which to address some of the specific issues which I will go through. In his opening address, Dr. Mayaki mentioned the co-guarantee platform. I'm happy to say that Afrexim Bank is part of this platform, together with the AFDB, ISIC, Garanco, and ATI. And I think this is just one way where our combined forces can really help to address the large gap that exists. Yes, it is a risk mitigation instrument where we are using the products of each of our institutions to come together to be able to offer a comprehensive solution. And it's not just on a MOU on a piece of paper. It's moved beyond that. A consultant has been appointed, and now the next step is to put the mechanics in place as to how to roll out the instruments under the co-guarantee platform. So at Afrexim Bank, we have both funded and unfunded products. The unfunded products are done as part of the Afrexim Bank Guarantee Program. This is a comprehensive suite of both short, medium to long-term guarantee products, covering everything from your trade type of guarantees through to project finance support. And the objectives behind this are really around capacity creation, of course risk mitigation, and unlocking capital, private sector capital. And I think this speaks to the issue of perceptions of risk. So by offering this type of guarantee support, we're then giving comfort to private sector funders to come in and put their money into these projects. Okay, we do both government and private sector projects. We can work in 51 of the 54 African countries who are all member countries of Afrexim Bank. In addition to the suite of guarantee products, we've launched the project preparation facility, which is being rolled out at the moment. We have what we call an interstate guarantee facility. This is in line with the objectives of the African Continental Free Trade Area, and this is really to provide one bond to allow the free flow of goods from one country to the next. Because for goods to transit many times across Africa, you have to pass through various countries, and I think specific bonds are required for each of these countries. Then rather, every country arranging for its own institutions to provide these bonds, Afrexim Bank will provide one bond that covers the whole transit process. We've recognized access to information is a huge gap. Often people don't know they have a product to sell, but they don't know where there's buyers, where there's a market for their products. So we've launched what we call the Trade Information Portal. And together with that, a Mensa platform which provides, it's like a repository database of information for people wanting KYC type information, for example, on governments, on financial institutions on the continent. We've also recognized that often currency is an issue. People have goods that they want to sell in their own currency. A buyer wants to pay for it in his own currency, but often you've got to convert to dollars to be able to trade. Now, access to dollars is a huge challenge. We've recognized that, and we've created what we call the Pan-African Payment Settlement Platform.
All right.
And this is to enable buyers and sellers to be able to trade in their own currencies.
It sounds like you've had to be quite creative, thinking through each of those steps. What's going to be the next thing people are going to be worried about? What's the next constraint? And then having to come up with creative solutions. Has that been your experience?
I would say yes. I mean, let's just get over the step. So, but I want to focus on maybe on one thing. I think all the risks have been mentioned here now already. But we need to go back to the basics. We need to get the basics right. And the basics here is that we need to prepare our projects as best as we can. If we don't prepare our projects to where we want it to be, we're never going to get to where the Africa we want, as they say. So I want to go back to this issue of project preparation and say where the opportunities are there. For example, in the past year, we've been working with Afro-Exim Bank, with Africa 50, with NAPID IPPF, by bringing approximately 8 projects to market, which is in the project early stages. And we brought them to platforms where they can be presented to private sector investors, to donors, to facilities. And we made use of opportunities such as the Africa Investment Forum, such as the World Economic Forum, to give those project developers and owners the opportunity to present the projects and say, okay, these are the projects that we want, that we know is at that stage, and it will be a bankable project at the end of the day. We need to make use of those opportunities and get more of those projects to market. I think the other big benefit is the fact that we need to create, I think CBN is in a good position to create that link between government and the private sector. We are all sitting here in the room, and a lot of the people sitting in the room I know is the donors, is the facilitators and government departments, but we need to bring more of the private sector into the room, and we need to sit face to face with them so that the private sector can actually say to us, these are our issues, these are the policy and regulatory issues that we're struggling with, how can you help us to address these issues? Because it's easy to say that these are the policy constraints that we have, but we don't know what is the roadmap to actually unlock that policy or regulatory issue. We need to do more of that and have more of those open and frank discussions as we move forward. I think the other thing is that the issue of local currency has been touched on, but I also think we need to forge that link with the local private sector investors as well and the project sponsors and owners. If we don't bring more of the local private sector investors in, we are going to lose out a lot, especially as we're trying to implement the Africa Free Trade, Continental Free Trade Agreement as well. We need to bring more of our local investors into play. And then let's not forget our local governments. Our municipalities are there, they're providing the service, but they are not getting the financial support or support that is required. National can do so much, but our local governments also need to come and play their role as well. In South Africa, it is well established. We need to see how we can move out into the continent and help our local governments as well further. I think as a last point, and maybe 2 points, and I don't want to be maybe too controversial.
One.
Okay, I'm going to try to make it one. I think development partners should be playing a greater role in allocating resources to the enabling environment and regulatory environment, in addition to financing the hard infrastructure. And by doing that, I believe that, and here's why I'm making it one, I think we need to reconsider what is the terms and conditions that we put on the table when we are bringing development funding into the room. What shouldn't we reconsider and see how can we best actually support the governments in financing those projects?
All right. And talking about, localizing, I think let's take it globally, because we had a very good reminder from Ms. Schaefer a little bit earlier about the importance of regional infrastructure, but also the lessons we can take from other parts of the world. So I want to hear from you, Ms. Matesi, about how you think we can best utilize some of the global initiatives and the partnerships that we've got with other parts of the world to actually improve what we're doing on the continent.
Many thanks, and let me start saying many thanks to congratulate for the PIDA week, because it's a great occasion to discuss all this key issue. European Union, as was mentioned, it's of course a long-standing partner to Africa. We know very well how important is the integration of the continent and how this integration can create growth and the jobs. So our intervention in the domain of the infrastructure and in supporting also the PIDA, it's very high. Let me just mention one number. In the last 7 years, we have committed more than 1 billion by year for key sector in the domain of energy, transport, water, digital. This is just to give the idea of the strong engagement from the European Union into this sector. Now, as was mentioned already by Dr. Mayaki, the Commissioner Buzaid, the needs for the infrastructure are very high. So we know that the public aid or the donor interventions are not enough to cover this gap, and we need the private sector. How calling the private sector into this area, and when we know that the risk perception is very high? We have asked ourselves this question in Europe. We have launched in Europe what we call the investment plan, and 3 years ago we have launched for Africa to strengthen our relationship in Africa also with the private sector, what we have called the European investment plan for Africa with 3 pillars. I want to mention the 3 pillars because it was just mentioned. 3 pillars, one will be technical assistance to help partners, financial institutions, beneficiaries to improve the preparation of bankable projects. The second pillar is what just was mentioned, to support our partner countries in improving the investment climate, the regulatory framework to allow the private sector to come in a better condition. The third is which kind of funds we can put in place in order to mobilize the private sector, in order to decrease, mitigate, lowering the risk for the private sector to intervene. And we have put in place new funds to blend, so mix grants, our grants to loans, to finance investment, and also we have created guarantees. So we have tried to launch new guarantees system. We have now 28 guarantees for all the key sectors, including energy. We have just signed 2 guarantees agreements last week at the African Investment Forum. And the idea is with a commitment of 1.6 billion in grants, we are now up in package of projects and the program that will be implemented through financial institutions, European but African. The African Development Bank will be a key partner for us to implement these guarantees that, depending on the basis of the information that we have now, we will be able to create a package of new project investment for more than 11 billion of euro just now for this period 2018-2020. For the future, of course, we know that this guarantee system could be the way to attract more private investment. So we have foreseen for our next future programming exercise an amount up to 6 billion just to be used to encourage the private sector to come also in the most fragile countries. Thank you.
I love that everyone's thought this through. There's the funding, there's the willingness. We just have to all come together. Before I let you go, I'm going to see if there are any questions from the floor before we wrap up with our closing remarks. so that we can get ourselves to the opening session. All I ask is that you tell me who your question is directed at, and please keep it as brief as possible. There's a question there. I'm not sure if we've got a microphone at the back. If we don't, can I take one of these?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Marubo Munyaka from Kenya, and I've worked for some of the regional institutions I'm talking about here. We talked about the guarantee program in finance infrastructure. We started the Africa Trade Insurance. Originally, we were calling it the African Guarantee Fund, and initially it was a commercial institution, and we then pushed it through African Union to become a program of African Union. So it now covers the entire African continent. So these funds are talking about the listing funds, the guarantees, all that. Why don't you push them, all of them, through ATI instead of having multiple programs? That's number one.
I'm sorry, I'm only able to take one question from
Yes.
one person. So you want to talk about consolidating all of these funds into
Yes.
one instead of the fragmentation?
Yes,
All right.
precisely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I can't see behind the pillars, so if you're behind the pillar, we'll need you to step out from behind the pillar. All right, let's deal with this. Who wants to deal specifically with this question around this consolidation? We've got a lot of fragmentation. Do you want to take it, Ms. Lawrence?
Thank you for the question. So as you're aware, ATI is also part of the Code Guarantee platform. So I'm not sure if routing the guarantees through ATI is going to provide the kind of additionality that we are trying to achieve under the platform. So I think it's more effective we all come together and collectively issue the guarantees. Unless you have a different view of how this should work, but I'm not sure if it's going to achieve anything more than what we can do together.
All right, I'll take one more question if there is one. Otherwise, we will move to our concluding remarks for this session. Remember, there's all sorts of high-level roundtables that we're going to be having over the next few days. Lots of opportunities for you to interrogate the things that are going to be said on the platform. We also will be having deeper conversations going into a lot of the things that have been raised this morning. So I'm going to thank my panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much for it. And we're going to get some concluding remarks now from for this particular session. Remember, we still haven't officially opened this PIDA Week 2019. That opening session is going to take place at about 11. Once we have concluded here, we'll give those of you a chance who haven't been able to register time to go and do that, and then please be ready for the opening session at 11. But to get our concluding remarks, so first of all, please welcome our next speaker, His Excellency the Honorable Ambassador Khalid Amara. He is Assistant Foreign Minister for African Organizations and Communities and the personal representative of the President of the Arab Republic of Egypt to Outer NEPAD. Please welcome His Excellency.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صباح الخير جميعا. Sisters and brothers, I indulge you to wear again your headphones to bear with me in my opening remarks or closing remarks on the conclusions of this very important session. I will speak in Arabic and in English, but I will start with the Arabic. الحقيقه يعني احنا سعداء جدا النهارده احنا نرحب بالدكتور ابراهيم مياكي الرئيس التنفيذي لولايه الاتحاد الافريقي للتنميه النيباد، والدكتوره اماني ابو زيد المفوضه في مفوضيه الاتحاد الافريقي المعنيه بالبنيه التحتيه، وحقيقه كافه الزملاء والاشقاء من القاره الافريقيه ومن خارجها من الشركاء الدوليين اللي معانا النهارده بمناسبه هذا الاسبوع الهام للبنيه التحتيه في الاتحاد الافريقي. وطبعا الاعلام والساده الصحفيين الموجودين معانا فرصه جيده ان احنا يعني نلتقي هذا الصباح في القاهره، حيث يعني استضافت هذه المدينه خلال الاسبوع الماضي احداث جلال خاصه ب رئاسه مصر للاتحاد الافريقي. كان عندنا ما نطلق عليه ورش عمل صنع في افريقيا، وهذه الورش كانت لاول مره بتعقد على المستوى الافريقي من الساده وزراء الصناعه الافارقه، بالاضافه للشركاء من القطاع الخاص من اتحادات الصناعات والغرف المختلفه المعنيه بالصناعه في افريقيا. وكان الحقيقه حدث هام جدا يصب في النهايه في موضوع اجنده 2063 وهدف تصنيع افريقيا الذي نسعى وننشد اليه جميعا، حيث توفر الفرص خاصه للشباب والمراه في العقود والسنوات القادمه لانضمام لسوق العمل في المجالات الصناعيه. ايضا استضافت العاصمه الجديده لمصر، العاصمه الاداريه الجديده، والتي لا تبعد سوى عشرات الكيلومترات عن هذا المكان، استضافت منتدى الاستثمار الرابع الذي تنظمه مصر على المستوى الافريقي. وكان الحقيقه تشرف هذا المنتدى بحضور السيد رئيس الجمهوريه، ورسائل الحقيقه اود ان ايضا اطلع حضراتكم على هذه الرسائل التي صدرت عن السيد الرئيس رئيس الاتحاد الافريقي ورئيس جمهوريه مصر العربيه. اول هذه الرسائل الحقيقه هي مرتبطه ايضا بعملنا هذا الاسبوع، وهي ضروره توافر الاراده السياسيه والاراده السياسيه الصلبه لتحقيق هذه الاحلام الافريقيه الكبرى التي نصت عليها اجنده التنميه الافريقيه 2063 وايضا الاجنده الامميه 2030. ومن هنا كان التركيز على الجوانب المختلفه لهذه الاجنده، وايضا اتاحه الفرصه لاشقائنا الافارقه على مدى العام الممتد لرئاسه مصر للاتحاد الافريقي بان يعني نحاول قدر الامكان ان نهتم بالجوانب المختلفه لهذه الاجنده التي هي مكمله لبعضها البعض. ايضا العنوان الرئيسي الذي نجتمع من حوله بالنسبه لبرنامج البنيه الاساسيه للاتحاد الافريقي هو برنامج ايضا يتحدث عن ضروره التنسيق والتكامل ما بين القطاعات المختلفه لتحقيق هذه الاحلام الكبرى للقاره الافريقيه، وبالتالي ما يطلق عليه المالتي ستيك هولدر ابروتش. طبعا احنا انجزنا اشياء ملموسه كبيره في الاتحاد الافريقي خلال الفتره الوجيزه السابقه، اهمها منطقه التجاره الحره القاريه التي اطلقت بالفعل واطلقت ادواتها التنفيذيه، واستمعنا للبانل اللي تحدثوا عن اطلاق بعض الادوات حتى البنكيه، ويعني خطوات واضحه جدا ومعالم واضحه على طريق الاندماج القاري الاقتصادي، وطبعا التكامل الاقليمي على مستوى القاره الافريقيه. الحقيقه الحديث عن القطاع الخاص هو حديث اساسي في هذه القضايا جميعا، خاصه في قضايا البنيه الاساسيه، واحنا سعداء ان احنا نعتبر القطاع الخاص شريك رئيسي في كل العمل الافريقي المشترك، خاصة في قضايا هامة جدا ومشروعات قارية عابرة للحدود بنعتبرها مشروعات رئيسية لتقدم القارة الإفريقية. بدون القطاع الخاص يصعب تحقيق هذه الآمال وهذه المشروعات على أرض الواقع. وبالتالي سنجد هنا في البيدا ويك أيضا معنا القطاع الخاص في الماركت بليس وفي فعاليات مختلفة في خلال هذا الأسبوع. هو شريك يعني يد بيد في كل الأحلام والمشروعات الإفريقية القادمة بإذن الله. أيضا يسعدني أن أتحدث أيضا عن الطرح الذي أطلقه السيد الرئيس، وهو تحدي الحقيقة لنا جميعا سواء في القارة الإفريقية أو خارجها، خلال مؤتمر الاستثمار في إفريقيا، وهو إن احنا يعني بنتحدى أنفسنا والعالم بأن إفريقيا تحتاج إلى خطة طموحة جدا للاستثمار وضخ الأموال في البنية الأساسية، يعني نقدرها بمئات المليارات من الدولارات، وهي تحتاج إلى حلفاء حقيقيين وشركاء حقيقيين لتنفيذ هذه الخطة. ونحن نتصور أن الشركاء الطبيعيين في هذا هم الحكومات طبعا، القطاع الخاص، مؤسسات التمويل سواء الإقليمية الوطنية الدولية. هذه كلها أطراف أساسية في عملية تحقيق هذا المخطط الذي يدفع ويسرع بعملية تنفيذ مشروعات البنية الأساسية على أرض الواقع. بدون هذا التصور وبدون أيضا شروط ميسرة من المؤسسات التمويلية يصعب على إفريقيا أن تتجاوز التحديات التي تواجهها، وهذا نطرحه كتحدي لنا جميعا وليس مجرد يعني تطلع، لكن هذا تحدي بمعنى أن علينا أن نصل بإذن الله إلى تحقيق هذا التصور، وضع الشركاء جميعا على الطاولة والتوصل إلى صيغة تسمح بتنفيذ هذه الإرادة السياسية المتوافرة بالفعل في القارة الإفريقية والتي عبر عنها القادة الأفارقة في أكثر من مكان. يعني سأتوقف هنا في الحديث بالعربية، والحقيقة اسمحوا لي بس أضيف بعض الملاحظات الأخرى. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure to welcome you all in Egypt this morning as we are about to launch the PIDA week, and I'm very glad to be speaking to you in this context of the CBN platform. That is a very, very important platform as we see it here in Egypt, where the private sector comes together with the public institutions, but also with the institutions themselves of the African Union, on top of which is the African Union Commission, and NIPAD being at the helm of this, I would say, big adventure into developing the right infrastructure in Africa. I'm very happy to speak to you during the Egyptian presidency, where we are very proud to say that together in Africa we have achieved many things in the last years, and we will continue to do so until we hand our presidency to our brothers in South Africa next year, and to make sure that the African Union is tracking its record properly as we move in the future. We will be very glad to announce maybe further a few things that we are doing, with NIPAD, but we're doing also at the Pan-African level. We are very happy to be in a position to soon launch the Climate Resilience and Mitigation Center here in Egypt in collaboration with NIPAD. We are working also on the very ambitious Continental Master Plan for integrating energy. We think, that these are mega issues that will transform the continent in the future. A few of you that will be joining us later next month in Aswan maybe will be able to see one of the biggest projects in the globe of solar energy in the Binban project, hopefully we would want to see that project being launched properly as a piloting project, for the whole continent, but for the sector itself, where it is an example of how the private sector have come together with government, together with regulations, to make a dream become true, and to produce clean energy on the continent, and that would provide also an example for other things to be done. Last but not least, I want to say that we will be very happy to host all the participants in a very important visit to the new administrative capital of Egypt, where you would see in the making one of the biggest projects in Egypt being unfolding as the new capital is getting ready to receive the government next year in 2020. And we have made sure that while you're here and we're talking about infrastructure, that you would see one of the biggest projects of infrastructure in Egypt with your own eyes. Its energy sites, its construction sites, the quarters of the government, but also the airports, the big underlying infrastructure, the telecommunications, and so forth. All of this has been touched upon in the last few days in Cairo, but we will continue through the week to talk more in details about all of this at the continental level. We are very happy that our brothers and sisters from Africa have joined us here, and will continue this conversation with them here in Cairo and in Addis and in other places in the continent. And I want to wish you a very good stay in Egypt, and I hope that you will be enjoying this week with us all through. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the Honourable Ambassador. Let's welcome back to the stage His Excellency Dr. Mayaki, who's going to give his closing remarks to the breakfast. Please welcome him back to the stage.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony. I'll be very brief. I would like to thank you all for having participated to this breakfast. If you have questions that you were not asked at this moment, we'll be all over with all of you, so do not hesitate. Thank you and have a good day.
Wraps up this CBN Media Breakfast. Thank you very much for being here. We will see you at the opening session at 11 o'clock. Enjoy your breakfast.